Hi, Cassie. I just want to make sure if you can hear me.
Yep. Hold on one.
Perfect.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. We're excited to have you here. We are going to have a few additional speakers today, so thank you for joining the meeting. With that being said, I'm going to start by just announcing and introducing the new GME staff that has joined us. There's we have two new GME staff members that are joining us. The first one I have is Francesca McKay. I did not see her on this call. I have looked for her under like participants and her name does not show up. But Francesca, if you're on under a different name and I'm missing it, please unmute yourselves and say hello. I'll give it a quick, couple seconds. All right, I don't think she's on, but she is the new EM clerkship and fellowship coordinator. So she'll be working with the Department of Emergency Medicine. Now, the second person that is joining us today, and she is here, so welcome, is Jennifer Coaches. And she's the new administrative assistant in radiology. And she will be working with Bina and Wendy. Do you want to unmute yourself and say hello? And I hope I said your name correctly. Please correct me.
Yes, it's Coaches.
Okay.
Like a Coach bag.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I had my orientation yesterday and I learned a lot of things. I've done some things. I've been here almost 2 months and working with Wendy and Bina, and still a lot to learn, I'm sure. Every day learning something, but it's been great so far. So thank you.
No worries. Awesome. If you ever need anything, you can reach out to anyone on this call. We are all happy to help you and eager to just jump in and just help make things easier for you. We've all been there. We understand the process of figuring
thank
out this. You're very welcome. All right. So we are going to start with Kate Carroll in the Immigration Service on with her day when she's wrapped up with us.
Awesome. Let me just see if I can share my presentation. Let's see. All right. So you guys can all see that now. Perfect. All right. So I know I see some new faces today. In case you haven't already met me, I'm Kate Carroll. I work in the Immigration Services Office over in HR. I primarily work with our H-1B folks and some of the more complicated J-1 cases. I don't know, is Vita on? I can't see all the names with my screen up.
Yeah.
No, maybe not yet. Shinkos is also our immigration specialist too. She does a lot of work with our visa holders as well. She primarily works with our J1s. And I believe also our director, Melissa Schur, is on the call. Melissa became our director recently, I think in September, maybe. So she's joining to learn a little bit more about what you all do. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead with the presentation. I'm going to move you guys over here. All right, so we're just going to talk a little bit today, some ISO information, some resource difference between an IMG, an international medical graduate versus a foreign national, then just a couple of visa basics, and then an overview of the visa process for both new and continuing trainees. And then finally, just when to contact our office. And so this is just our contact information here. This will be MedHub. So you'll have this presentation later on. We do have a hybrid working schedule. So if you do want to come see us in person, this is our office hours on campus. We're there Tuesdays, 10 a.m. to noon, and then again, 1 to 4. So any of your residents and fellows can just stop on by if they have questions, or they can schedule time to meet with Vita or myself via Zoom or Teams, whatever is easiest, any other time. And what I would say, if you're a new coordinator, you may want to check to see if you already have UMass Chan Systems access. So especially if you're hired by the hospital. So if you're paid by Memorial and you don't already have a UMass Med.edu login and email address, let me know, because we probably have to get that set up for you so that you can access our systems as far as visa sponsorship is concerned. And like I said, we're available for team Zoom meetings with anybody, coordinators, physicians, program directors, anybody who's new and just wants to learn a little bit more about our process or has questions. I'm happy to set something up anytime. We will also be hosting a UMass VIP refresher training on Thursday at 2 p.m. So if you didn't already receive an invite, I just sent an invite to anybody who was yet, or if you want to forward it to somebody else, let me know and I can definitely add them to the invitation there. And then we also have some updated information for you in MedHub. There is an Immigration Services Office folder on the left-hand side of the main page under Resources and Documents. You'll find our folder, and then in there we have some information, some helpful information for reviews in the fall, as well as, you know, a user guide for UMass VIP. And yeah, we also have the sample questions from applicants about visas, the most common GME visa categories, and then depending on your program, specifically questions about reviewing applicants for these different types of programs. And then we have our user guide, and this presentation will be there as well. These, I don't believe the handouts have been updated yet for this year, so those should be in there shortly. So quickly, in case you're not already aware of the difference between an IMG and a foreign national, this is one of the most critical pieces of understanding the visa sponsorship requirements. So an international medical graduate is just somebody who's graduated from a school that is not in the US or Canada. So an MD or DO program outside of the US or Canada. Many of IMGs also happen to be foreign nationals and will need visa sponsorship, but you may also get some US citizens or US permanent residents, green card holders, and those individuals will not need visa sponsorship to participate in your program. So I know a lot of folks will go to, you know, one of the Caribbean schools, they might be a US citizen and they might be considered an IMG, but they're not required to come through our office for any sponsorship needs. Now, the foreign national is essentially anybody who's not a US citizen or not a permanent resident. So anybody who's residing in the US temporarily. And most of these folks will require visa sponsorship. Some of them may also be US graduates. So these may include individuals who've gone to an MD or a DO program in the US or in Canada on a student visa. And so even though they're not IMGs, they may still require visa sponsorship. So it's important to understand the difference there. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask. Unfortunately, I can't see all your faces with this, with me sharing the screen. So feel free to jump in if there's anything. So quickly, visa basics. I have your 3 most common visa categories that you will see while in your programs. The J1 is the most common. This is an exchange visitor visa, and this is sponsored by ECFMG. This is what we try to bring most of our residents and fellows in as. It tends to be the least expensive and the least complicated visa to apply for. The H-1B is less common. This is an employment specialty occupation visa. This is often fellows that might be transferring or from another training program outside of UMass Chan. They might be coming here, they already have H-1B status, and we simply take them here as H-1Bs as well. But we usually don't see a lot of these at the PGY1 level or at the residency level. It's less common. And then we have our F1 OPT folks. The OPT stands for Optional Practical Training. You don't need to remember that. These are our international students who have graduated medical school in the US. So DO, MD program students, they were here as international students on an F1 visa sponsorship, and then they apply for this OPT. So this is like a 1 year of training that they are able to receive based on their F1 status following completion of their MD or DO program. And that will cover them for their PGY 1 year. Once that is expired, usually on June 30th or sometime in June of the end of their PGY 1 year, then we would look to move them to H-1B sponsorship in general. And we have our sponsorship policy listed here. It's on the GME website under how to apply, and it talks about you know, that we generally use the J1 visa. H-1B is limited to very specific types of situations, and we also accept OPT folks. So if you have individuals who are asking you about the sponsorship policy, you can always forward them to this website, and that will give them some basic information. If you have additional questions, feel free to send them to Vita or to myself, and we're happy to help. That's what we're here for. Okay, so just a little bit about each of these categories so that you know just a little bit here. And don't worry, we're not going to have a quiz later, so you can always ask if you forget something. The J1, there's one sponsor of all of these visas in the United States. So their sponsor is the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates, or ECFMG. This organization sponsors J1s for every single J1 physician in the US. So I think they have over something like 9,000 to 11,000 J1s that they support. They're based out of Philadelphia, and they're hard to get a hold of sometimes. They're very busy people. So we serve as a liaison between the physicians and their office and assist with that type of application. ECFMG will only provide J1 sponsorship for accredited programs. So if you are in a non-accredited fellowship or a program that's not accredited by ACGME, you will not be able to sponsor a J1 in your program. The J1 is also valid for a maximum of 7 years. So this is really important, especially for like surgical fellowships and subspecialty fellowships. You want to make sure that they're going to have enough time remaining in their sponsorship allowance to be able to participate in your program. To obtain the J1 sponsorship, the physician actually needs to receive what's called a statement of need from their Ministry of Health in their home country. So that's just essentially a letter from the Ministry of Health saying that, yes, we need physicians in this particular specialty, and we're allowing this individual to go to the US for training. And upon completion of their training, they're supposed to return home to that country for 2 years before returning to the US in different status. The J1, there is a no moonlighting policy, so absolutely no moonlighting. That's, if there's questions about it, we can chat separately. There is no billing for services, and there cannot be any gaps between training years. So if you have somebody who is joining your program and was off cycle at their previous program, they're probably going to be off cycle start dates here. So if they're finishing July 20th, and they're starting here July 21st, something like that. The H-1B, like I said, less common. We don't sponsor PGY1 positions for H-1B, and there's reasons for that. I don't want to go into them too much. We can sponsor H-1B for those individuals that are currently in a training program, a clinical training program on an H-1B visa. So if they're coming here from, let's say, Mass General program or whatever, they are on an H-1B, we can take them and transfer them in an H-1B status. We will sponsor H-1B for US medical school graduates for their PGY2 level and beyond, if they're starting here using their F1 OPT. Again, this does not apply to Canadian medical schools, even though they're not considered IMGs. It's a whole separate piece there. Any exception to the H-1B sponsorship policy has to be reviewed and approved by the GME Visa Committee. So if your program director wants to offer H-1B sponsorship to a particular candidate, then I would recommend that they reach out to Dr. Potts and request that the committee be convened, and we can look at the special circumstances as to why the program wants to sponsor H-1B for a particular individual. Generally, the sponsorship exceptions are few and far between. We do not sponsor H-1B simply because the resident wants to get an H-1B. There has to be a particular need or reason why they don't qualify for J1 or some other issue there. The H-1B is valid for a maximum of 6 years. So unless they're in the process of doing a green card, then in that case, we might be able to sponsor them for a little bit longer than 6 years. But we do not sponsor green cards for any type of clinical training position. We are not allowed to do that. And then finally, the F1 OPT. This is occasionally you'll see it for PGY1. You will probably never see it in any other training year, simply because of the way that the program works. Like they only have it for 1 year directly following their MD or DO program. So I can't imagine that they would be coming in for a fellowship directly, but if that happens, let us know. So yeah, we talked about 1 year of optional practical training. We'll do H-1B following that. This is important to know that this is not for anybody who's in a PhD or MPH or other degree program in the US. This is only for those students that are enrolled in an MD or DO program specifically. We only can use it for that 1 year. It may be, depending on when they apply for this, it may be that the employment authorization ends in June of that first year of training. So we may have to start their sponsorship on the H-1B a little bit before the start of the P2Y2 year, but it will depend on the individual situation. And then the other question that sometimes folks will ask is, does UMass Chan support STEM OPT for clinical training? And unfortunately, no. Medicine is not considered a STEM field by the US federal government, which I disagree with, but apparently that's what they've decided. So unfortunately, we're not able to allow them to use an additional 2 years of training for their residency programs. Okay, so we talked a little bit about UMass VIP, but just in case you're not familiar with what that is, UMass VIP is our visa information portal. It's the client-facing side of our database that we call Synapsys, and the departments and programs can use this, as well as foreign nationals can use this to submit visa requests. I would say Synapsys is sort of like ISO's equivalent of MedHub. So it helps us organize our work and track our foreign nationals and keep our records nice and tidy. And as part of UMass VIP, we have something that's called eForms. These are just electronic forms. And as a program that is sponsoring a foreign national, so if you have somebody requiring J1 sponsorship or H1B sponsorship, the department coordinators will be logging into UMass VIP and completing some information about their program on these eForms. They're fairly easy. Like I said, we will have a training session on Thursday, so you're welcome to come to that if you're able to. And then we'll also have that user guide in MedHub, which should help you along with that. And just a little bit about the workflow. There's a tiny change since last year. It's not a very big thing, but I'm just going to go through this a little bit. So first, you're going to either match with your foreign national, or you're going to offer a position outside of match and the position's been accepted, or they're going to be reappointed or changing programs. So that's going to happen first. Once this happens, GME is going to provide us with the match and reappointment data. They sometimes have the change of program data also. I would say if you have somebody who's doing a change of program, who's coming into your program directly from UMass Chan and another program here, let us know, because depending, sometimes things get lost in the shuffle. We want to make sure we're on top of that. If you have anybody who's been offered and accepted a position outside of a match, please let us know, especially if they require visa sponsorship, so that we can determine what type of sponsorship is needed. And then once we have all of that information, we kind of like make our big list of everybody who's going to need visa sponsorship. At that point, we're going to be sending out an email to the program coordinators with instructions for initiating our eForms. So you'll get an email that says, Dr. Joe, whatever needs J1 sponsorship, please take these steps. Here's a link. This is the information you need to put in, and essentially just follow that email and it will help you initiate the process. So we're going to send everybody that out at the very beginning. And then contracts either will be signed through MedHub or through DocuSign, depending on, if they're already matched for a fellowship, and they don't have access to MedHub yet. I believe Cassie's already sent contracts to everybody through DocuSign. The reappointments and change of programs, I believe, will go through MedHub starting in February. And then in March, after the March match, those matches will also go through MedHub. So once the contracts are fully signed by the trainee, the PD, and GME, so I think Melissa will be signing them for GME, then the program can begin the process of sending the eForm out. Okay, so you'll follow that information in that email. You'll send that email, And that will begin the process. And you'll also enter some information about your program into the e-forms. Once you're finished filling out your e-forms, the physician will receive an email with login information to use UMass VIP to complete their section of the request. And we ask them to provide some biographical and educational and visa details. Once they finish that, then we can review it and begin the applicable sponsorship process, whether that's H-1B or J-1 or something else. Is there any questions about this specific piece so far? Okay, I'll have questions at the end. Okay, so there's the 3 types of visa processes that we'll be working on at the same time. I just wanted to call them out because they're slightly different, and we'll refer to them either as appointment, reappointment, or change of program. You probably all know appointments are essentially new hires. They all have to go through the onboarding process in HR. Reappointments are pretty much anybody who's reappointing to the same program. They usually have a promotion to the next PGY level. We don't need to onboard them, but we still may need to do an extension of their visa status. So we have a reappointment process. The visa for the J1s, especially J1s, need to be renewed every year, even if they're staying in the same program. So we have a process for that. And then the change of program. So anybody who's currently in a clinical training program here and is beginning a different training program, even if it's going from a prelim year to like a categorical program, we would consider that a change of program. And that has a separate process as well. So that. Just a couple of pieces of when to contact our office. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're not going to be like, no, you shouldn't contact us for this. We're happy to help you with any questions you have. There's a lot of information to know. We don't expect you all to be experts in any way. That's what we're here for. You give us jobs, so thank you very much. But we do want you to kind of remember some of these pieces here. If you have a physician who's going to be doing an away elective or rotation, and it's not listed as a participating site on the ACGME accreditation page, we do need to get special permission for J1s for this, and we need to make sure for H-1Bs, we have this information as well. So anytime you have somebody on a visa who's doing an away elective, reach out and let us know, and we can let you know what needs to happen. If there's any moonlighting questions about moonlighting for any visa holders, like I said, J1s, they can't moonlight at all, but some other visa holders can. So depending on the situation, we might be able to approve moonlighting at certain locations. If you have anybody who's going to be doing a leave of absence, withdrawal from the program, any type of remediation. So in this case, remediation means like any type of extra work that this individual will be doing or for the program that others are not doing. That's what we need to report. Any kind of disciplinary action, termination, medical malpractice, arrest, all of these things. If you have a question about anything, let us know. If there's anything that prevents the physician from participating in day-to-day activities, or something that's going to require additional time to complete the program, for example, like a leave of absence that is longer than expected and they need additional time, they might become off cycle, let us know, because we will have to address that with their visa. And those are the major ones that we see. But of course, if you ever have any questions, reach out. And then I'll just a note about international travel. International travel can be a little bit challenging for those who are on visas, especially if they have to apply for a new visa while they're at home. Sometimes the foreign national will not have to do this. They might have a visa that's valid for multiple years, or they might be able to travel and use their current visa to come back to the US. However, if somebody is traveling and their visa has expired, they may need to apply for a new visa to come back to the program. And that's when they can be delayed in returning. There is something called administrative processing, which is like a security clearance that foreign nationals will often go through when they're applying for a new visa. We have no way of knowing who is going to go through security clearance. So we can't tell in advance if someone's going to get stuck in a security clearance. So we always say, if your physician's traveling and they're going to apply for a new visa, always have a contingency plan. So they'll want to work with, you know, their chief or whoever to make sure that someone's there to cover their clinical hours. You know, anything that needs to happen in case they're delayed, and they really, there's nothing that they can do to come back. If they're delayed, they're delayed. And we ask them to talk with us before traveling outside the US. We have this travel report form, and really it's for us to just make sure we can take a look at their documents before they leave, that they have everything they need to travel, that we don't like, oh, we see something like, oh, you're going to need a new visa, or you forgot a signature on your document and you can't come back without it. That just sort of helps us make sure that they're as prepared as they possibly can be to travel without delay. And then I would just say a note, like, to, if there's any questions about the clinical travel policy, just to reach out to Jeannie on that as well. So that's mostly my presentation. I would say immigration's constantly changing. So any questions at all, whatsoever, contact our office. If you ever want to simply, you know, if you have questions or have better want to understand the rules or responsibilities for the program, you know, we can set up a personalized session for you. We're happy to do that. And really, we're here to help your trainees have a successful program and be able to complete without any issues. So that's really our ultimate goal, is to make sure everybody can complete their program and not have the visa concerns that, you know, they would otherwise have. So that is it. I thank you guys all for your support. You've been amazing to work with over the last several years, and I hope that can, you know, like, I know that's going to continue. I see some new faces, and hopefully you feel comfortable reaching out to us already. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes and answer anything. I don't know. Log out of this.
Send me a copy of these slides so I can just pop them in.
Absolutely.
All right.
And
Thank you, Kate.
I have a change of program list, so I will send that over to you once
Perfect.
you send me the slides. I'll just reply.
Vita, did you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I had a dentist appointment, so I'm back. My teeth are clean.
Yay, clean teeth.
Yeah, so hello, everyone. Like Kate said, feel free to email us if you have any questions or concerns. If I don't know the answer, Kate most likely will. So she's been doing this a lot longer than I have.
You're pretty good. You're good. All right. Any questions? Oh. Quiet group.
No, I don't see any in the chat either. I wanted to say thank you, and you beat me to it. I was going to ask Vita to introduce yourself, but you were ahead of the curve. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to reiterate that the ISO group is wonderful to work with. They have saved my tail more than once, and my trainees' tails as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to them if you have any IMGs. Thank you so much. We appreciate having you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so next on the agenda, I have Frankie Guzman and Cassie Walminster that will be presenting on the coordinator forum. And Frankie,
Yes,
and
let me share my screen.
Oh, Frankie, I was going to do your slides. Do you want to do it yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. I think I should be good.
Okay, perfect.
We'll do present the room. Let's see. Do you see what do you see? Is it presenting in the
Yeah, we see your whole presentation. So if you just go to slideshow, we'll just see one slide at a time.
slideshow? Should I just press here and it does it?
you can press on the bottom of the screen too, next to the little slide bar.
Let me just share a different screen 1 sec. This is not letting. Share screen. Let me share this. Okay, so do you see, which screen do you see now?
You're not oh. Now we see, it looks like an intro screen or maybe
Okay.
it's your whole desktop because it says, hey, Cortana. Now it says, oh, it's like saying what you're saying. You're fine, you're good.
Yeah, I tried to take that off, and for some reason, it just, I don't know why it's not working for me. I guess we'll just see whatever I say.
Okay. Frankie, can you see if you can push in the plug of your headset? Because your audio is a little blotchy right now.
Really?
Am I the only
Thank
one
you
that
very
hears it
much.
that way?
Let me try again. Does this sound better?
Yes.
Okay, still, okay. Are you able to see my presentation where it says WIA Coordinator Forum?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Oh.
guys, so
Louise says it's still blotchy, that the sound is still not good, and so does let's see.
oh, maybe I should just do it without the microphone. Let me just see. I'm gonna stop sharing so I can change the microphone from. Let's see.
That sounds better. I don't know what you did.
That sounds better. I
Yeah.
took off the headset. The headset keeps giving me issues. I sound better now?
Yep, and in the chat, Louise said much better. And
Okay,
so did
perfect. I'll just do it without it. Let me share my screen again. Okay. Alrighty. So hold on, I clicked ahead. So we're doing a coordinator forum. Melissa came to me and Cassie, W. I don't know. I don't want to say your last name wrong. So we are going to be we're in charge of putting together a coordinator forum for you guys. So I don't know about you guys, but I've had moments where I wish that I had someone to express any challenges that I have gone through in during being a coordinator. And this is well, the reason why we're doing coordinator is because a coordinator forum is because we want to be able to offer you a safe place and confidential place where you can come and express anything that you're going through, any questions that you have. Also, we want to be able to provide you with professional development. We do know different organizations that we are thinking of reaching out to so that we can provide you with certain developments, professional developments that will be great for all of us. This will be a time where we can discuss any challenges, any things that we're going through as a coordinator. Though GME will not be able to fix any, like all of our challenges that we have, but certainly they are interested in helping us. So this is also going to be a chance where we can learn from each other. And also we want to provide you guys with a true listening session where we can speak freely about different topics, events, or procedures we take care of and discuss step by step how we can accomplish those tasks. Like together we grow and together we can, help each other and build each other up. I know that some people here that already know me know that I am always willing to help and always willing to help. If anyone has any, how would I say it? If anyone ever needs like any help, basically, I'm there. So when Melissa brought this to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of this coordinator forum, I jumped to the opportunity because I was like, yeah, this is perfect. This is a great way for us to build something that we can work together and help each other out, and perfect for us to grow together. Also, we would like to know what is working for you. So basically, there are things that I do different than other coordinators, and sometimes finding out from each other, like how you do it, how the other coordinator does it, can help us, you know, do it better or come up with a more innovative idea of how to do something. What challenges we are facing, basically. And we are able to also come together, get together and vent about things that we're going through in our very own program. And like that, together we can also problem solve and maybe come up with solutions of how to fix that problem or find something that can make us, you know, maybe do it better, or basically try to find a solution. So you are in charge of what we share with GME and what we do not. We, when we get together, this is a confidential moment where we discuss together as coordinators things that we go through, and we only share what you want us to share. So for this coordinator forum, the leads are myself, and I'll be doing this for 2 years, and Cassie Dublin. She's also will be doing it for 2 years. And we are also looking for a member at large for a 1-year term. And so we're interested in having someone who is interested in becoming a member, and anyone who would like to start for this can contact me or Cassie. I don't know if you guys are aware of the CTAG-Me. In order for you to continue with your certification, you need to be able to do certain presentations. And this will be a great opportunity for anyone who needs to continue with that CTAG-Me. If you become a member, you'll have plenty of opportunities to present. And if you have like a presentation that you want to bring to the group and that we will all learn from, this will be a great opportunity. When and where? So we are planning on doing this quarterly, and the first meeting will be in person and then in a hybrid fashion. It will be through Zoom, and we don't know the place yet, but we will let you know once we have that information. And will there be food? Yes. GME will provide food for those that attend in person. And you know, if there's food, you know, if there's food there, then meeting is approved. And that's my presentation, and I'm gonna give it to Cassie if she has anything else that she would like to add.
I second Frankie's statement, and we are looking forward to having coordinators join us in the forum. There was a poll in MedHub for choosing the date. There were 2 options for the date. Melissa is going to open the poll again to see if we can get a few more responses. Once we pick the date, I will announce it in the newsletter on the 1st. And then we're going to send a calendar invite, and we ask that people please RSVP if you are truly coming, so the GME office can properly order the amount of food and that we can have a good and joyful meeting.
Does anyone have any questions, anything that you'd like to ask us?
So I just want to thank Frankie and Cassie for agreeing to sort of launch this. Obviously it's in an infancy stage, so it's going to take a lot of, you know, nurturing and development to get it to where we want it to be. But this was meant to sort of mirror what the ACGME requires for residents and fellows. We should be having resident and fellow forums, so that for the same purpose, so that the residents and fellows have a place to come to talk with others and bring things forward to leadership. We have not gotten any traction on that end to get folks to really, you know, want to take it on and launch it and give us a model that will roll over year to year. So that's still a work in progress, but I'm hoping that you guys will take an opportunity to join the meetings and, kind of come together. And if there are things that the GME office, can help with, those are the things that we want to know about and can work with you to try and improve. So, and then, sprinkled in with a little professional development, like Frankie said. So, hopefully you guys find value in them, and, please, give your feedback if things aren't working, if they're not as helpful as what we're anticipating. We want to know that too, so that we can, work to improve that.
All right, I don't see anything in the chat, but I would just like to add in for clarification that this forum is going to be like the liaison between the coordinators and GME. Is that safe to say? That you guys will get like the leaders Cassie wrote in the chat, correct? All right, thank you guys. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Frankie and Cassie, and they will gladly answer you. When I guess the only question I have is for the member at large. Will that be a process? Do you just want them to reach out to you? Is there almost like a member at large job description, or?
We don't have a job description made up yet, but yes, we do want everyone that is interested to reach out, and we will keep a list because it will be a 1-year term. So we will definitely give everyone a chance to be a part of it.
That's awesome. Thank you, Frankie.
You're welcome.
And as we develop, I think there will be, opportunities for other positions too, hopefully. If, this is for all the coordinators, so this is a chance to make it what we want to be. So right now we sort of have, a template of what can look like. And then as we go along and we get participation from people, it can be more than just what was slotted to be it to start with.
All right, thank you, Cassie. This is exciting. It's going to be an evolving project, and those are the best because you can mold them and make them whatever best fits our needs. So we appreciate that. We appreciate your time and effort. All right, guys. The next thing I have on the agenda is trainee vacation time. If you guys recall, at the end of the academic year, GME was requiring everyone to just look at trainee vacation times and update that information. I personally find it easier to do at least 6 months at a time instead of looking at the entire year. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you are like me and rather do it in chunks instead of doing the entire year, then I do encourage you to look at that now, say from July to December, and then when May comes around, then GME is asking for it, you'll only have to really look at January through June. Keep in mind that if you have a graduating trainee, according to the new union rules, they will get their vacation time paid out if they have some in the books, and that's why we really want to make sure that our reporting is accurate. I know some trainees use MedHub or different ways to let your timekeepers know. Some of us are timekeepers and some of us are not. So your timekeeper may not be entering the appropriate time, or the trainee's not letting the timekeeper know. We just wanted to kind of put a plug in for you guys to kind of check those times in terms of vacation that was taken and whether or not it was allocated appropriately through payroll. Melissa, anything you want to chime in on that? Does that about sum it up? You're on mute, but I saw yup and
Yeah. No, we will have to go through the same process as last year. So Monique's right. If you sort of do a good review now, when I ask in May for like the final accrual amounts of what you anticipate at the end of the year, you won't have as big of a lift to go in and check.
Right.
Yep.
So the next thing on my agenda is Trainee Appreciation Week. As crazy as that is coming up. That will be the week of February 26th through March 1st here at UMass. I know some people do it the week before, but here it's school vacation week, and we usually opt to do it the following week. That Friday of the week before is when the medical students have trainee appreciation, and they give residents like little treats and things like that. And then the following week will be when we are celebrating trainee appreciation. We're bringing it up more so that your programs can plan something. I know every program does something a little bit different depending on funding and how many trainees you have. Right now, I know PEDS is working on just getting them some mugs with like UMass logo on them, and kind of piggybacking on the Stanley craze. We're not getting Stanleys because we don't have money like that, but we're gonna get them something. But yeah, I mean, just kind of plan ahead. It comes up really quickly, and we wanted to give you guys that heads up. I see Melissa. I don't know if you wanted to chime in with some of the things that GME is planning. I know historically they do like free coffee, and they have a couple of things on the docket for that week.
Yeah, so I mean, we're in the planning stages. We will have raffles on a daily basis through that whole week, as we normally do. Like Monique said, free coffee and tea at all of the campuses. We're working with the Gold Humanism Honor Society students on different initiatives that they're going to help coordinate. They usually do care packages for the interns. They do little snack deliveries. We're going to pay for some banners to be hung at all of the campuses. So they're sort of coordinating that effort as well. They're going to do appreciation messages. They're collecting those all in like one repository, and then they're going to share those on the Thank a Resident Day, which is on February 23rd. For the remainder of our week's activities, we're meeting with residents on Friday to sort of get their input and see what they're interested in having. Each year we sort of do a swing and a miss because we think we're doing something that's great, and then we get the feedback that it wasn't the greatest because of X, Y, or Z. So every year we try and do a little something different. We might try and plan an offsite event, though that's risky because we just don't know what type of participation we will get. I don't know if anybody on this meeting, has ideas themselves about what might be nice to do during GME Appreciation Week. And just to be specific, GME Appreciation Week will follow Thank a Resident Day, which again is Friday, February 23rd. Our whole week's activities will take place February 26th through March 1st. So does anyone have any ideas that they think would be something other than, the stuff we already have planned? We might do pet therapy. Megan's looking into another organization that Fitchburg Family Medicine has used, where it's not, they come with like a few different animals. So it's not just, one dog. It might be a dog, a cat, a bunny. So we're thinking about that. She's getting some information and pricing, but anything that you guys can help us brainstorm?
Louise said our residents suggested having them go to breakfast at Salt and Pepper across from Hanneman, $6.99 for a full breakfast. That's a great idea. They're a small location, so for your residents it may make sense, but for the institution I think that will be tough. But I love it there. Salt and Pepper is good.
I mean, we talked about having, I guess in past years, we've had like an event where leadership sort of like scooped ice cream. They did like make your own sundaes, I think. But looking back in some of the files pre-COVID, when they did that, it really wasn't well attended, and there was a lot of ice cream left over. And it's difficult for us because we have to almost replicate everything that we do at the university campus. We also have to try and then do something for people at Memorial and at Hanneman. Fitchburg is sort of self-sufficient during that week. They coordinate a lot of stuff through Health Alliance, but it is challenging when we have learners in 4 different locations to try and make sure it's fair and everyone feels like they're getting the same attention. So we had talked about doing a breakfast and then serving them the breakfast as a thank you. but again, we'd have to replicate it at all the campuses. So,
There's something in the chat. They're asking for, is there any UMass swag? Louise is asking. And then Frankie mentioned, how about painting kits event? There's a place in Worcester that sells the actual painting kits.
yeah, so actually, Frankie, I just looked online today. Canvas and Cup is a place in Westboro, and they have kits that you can buy, and then
That's
they
the
do
one.
like a live session with you. So it's not recorded, but everyone would pick up their kit and on a certain night do it. And I like the idea of trying to do some things virtual and some things in person, because sometimes it is just easier if you can do something, at home. So yeah, I'm waiting for them to get back to me with the price. Was that the place is there somewhere else that's based in Worcester that's different?
Frankie put in the chat, yeah, that's the place.
Oh, okay.
There's quite a bit in the chat. I mean, I already mentioned asking for swag, food, coffee, ice cream trucks that could park at locations. I know Duncan has mobile trucks that would come. And Shirley said we use didactic time to do a group activity. GME can provide some funds. And while I know that the socks were not enjoyed by the trainees, I will say that we were actually discussing compression socks, just because they're standing all day, but those are a different beast all on their own. They're pricey, they're not the easiest to get to, but that was a request that I heard from the trainees. And at least a lot of the ones in peds use them, especially because they're on their feet all day, but compression socks was a hit. I was joking. I said, can we put UMass logos all over them? And they said, please don't. But that was a random thought as well. And I do want to throw a quick plug out there for those, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on the name? Those things where we did one for Debbie DeMarco when she left, where you can email comments and stuff.
Oh yeah, the kudos board.
The Kudo board. Yep. Those
Yeah.
have been a huge hit. You can do them and print them out. And the residents really like them. We just swap them out. We can maybe put some in the hallways and something in the end, maybe on the medical school side. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. How do you do those? It's a website, Kathy. I can send it to you. It's like
Yeah.
10 to do it. And
Yeah, I was gonna say it was pretty cheap.
Mhm. It's like, and then, I mean, if you want to print it, it does cost a little bit more. And I can show you, like we have one on the 5th floor in the pediatrics corridor. And it's wonderful. It's just really cool to look at when you walk by.
Yeah, so you have a choice, I think, to do a poster or, a book. I think for Debbie, we did a book.
Yeah. And I will say that because obviously, we're down to the wire on a lot of these things. There is a free version, but it doesn't give you as many, like you can't have as many people write comments in. That's replying to Cassie in the chat. I wanted to say that because we're down to the wire oftentimes, what I have done is I just go to FedEx on Shrewsbury Street, right at the beginning of Route 9, where Trader Joe's and stuff is at, and have them print it. That way you don't have to wait for the 2 weeks that it takes to ship from wherever the Kudo board people get it back to you. And they print it same day and get it back to you, and then we can have it up or present it to them. We have put them in the hallway, in their lounges, in their touchdown spaces, and the trainees really appreciate it. They enjoy reading what the faculty member have to say, and they're colorful, they're fun. Printing it out, I think, was only $30. It wasn't anything outrageous. But I'll get you the info, Cassie and Louise. All right. The next thing that I had on the agenda, Melissa, was orientation updates. Are there any?
Yep, I'm gonna share a slide. Let me just. So we have made some progress with planning for orientation activities this year. So as always, the IS piece is sort of the last to be confirmed, but we're well ahead of where we have been in past years. We have a designated project manager to help us with the IS piece, and that's a really good thing because Workday is not only an issue for people now, but it will also be an issue we have to deal with as we onboard new people for July 1. So what I can share with you around orientation is we will set up the Google Drive again, as we have in past years, and we will continue to update and, locate documents there. We have 2 Zoom orientation sessions confirmed. We'll continue to do it through Zoom. It just allows a lot more flexibility and less in-person sessions are required. If we were to do it live, we can only accommodate so many people in an amphitheater. So June 27th will be all residents, and on July 1 will be the orientation session for all of the fellows and anyone who's a PGY2 coming in. That program will be from 8 a.m. to 12:30. And we have a draft of that agenda, and invites have gone out to all of our presenters. I think to finalize it, Dr. Potts would like to have, some nicer titles. These are really basic, just risk management is the session. So for the residents and fellows, I would like you to wait until we have a more cleaned up version, but I will share with you the draft, so at least you have something to refer to. New for this year, and hopefully only for this year, our GME welcome and the welcome luncheon is not going to take place on the Friday prior to July 1. We've always historically tried to have it as close to July 1st as possible in order to make it available to anyone who's joining a fellowship and can't get here until right before July 1st. So this year, due to space challenges at the medical school, there is absolutely no space available that entire week leading up to July 1st. There's a huge RNA conference, and they've taken up like every spot possible. So for this year, it will be on a Monday, June 24th. We're planning for it to be around 12 to 1:30. And in addition to the luncheon, we're going to host a resource fair. This was actually a suggestion by CIR last year that they had seen at other institutions. This will be a place where we can have tabling for certain areas, like CIR will have a table, benefits can have a table, Tend Health can have a table, EAP and the Office of Wellbeing can have a table. So there'll be several stations basically that residents and fellows can sort of visit either a little bit before and after the luncheon. Onboarding packages are going to be assigned after match day. And in that onboarding package, you're going to have the lab coat ordering and the scrubs ordering forms, the EPIC prior experience survey links, the links to see who needs what for certification courses like BLS, ACLS, and as well as that IS confidentiality form that we always need. For the certification courses, we have the dates sort of plugged in temporarily as we're sort of working out the IS piece. The rooms are reserved over in iCells, so I don't anticipate those changing too much, but we may have to tweak some of the groups. Again, they have a really strict one, this many learners to this number of instructors, so 1 to 10 learners or whatever it is. We have to stick to that in terms of capacity for the rooms. And so I know that in past we've tried to book, shared programs together. Sometimes the numbers just aren't going to work. And so we're going to have to just be more flexible. And I understand that it does create additional work for you guys if you do share orientation activities with a similar program like peds and med peds, surgery, and some other programs. So we will do our best to not have that happen, but we just can't guarantee it. Miles Asenso has agreed this year to help be the ringleader for the ATLS course. It's capped at 20 folks, so he will be working with anybody who needs ATLS to make sure that we have a list for continuing medical education that has just 20 people on it. For the IS training piece, we have 4 days of training. So June 21st, June 25th, June 26th, and July 2nd. You will have noticed that the ITLC space has increased in size. We've gone from 4 rooms to 6 rooms, which is great. However, that is now the only space on campus that can house all of the medical students with the increased class size. So now that we're at 225 students, that is the only location that all of the medical students can be together at any one time. They have now encroached onto our training time. Typically at the end of June, the medical students were gone and done. Now they are in there right up until like almost the very end of the month. I don't know how that's going to work for us for next year. This year, we have secured those 4 days, and we're working with IS to make sure that we can accommodate setup, and with the extra rooms, we are able to accommodate more learners, even though we have less days. For prior experience or the condensed EPIC training, that will still be offered again this year. For the same programs as last year, inpatient ambulatory, surgery, and emergency medicine.
No, hold on, Melissa, that's only for fellowships.
Yeah, that's what I have. Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay,
Those
not
only.
gonna be offered to residents at all.
Right. That's what I said.
Okay.
Those only. So last year they did open it up to residents, and that it was pretty much a disaster because even if they used it in medical school, they weren't using it in the same way that they would be as a resident. So this year it's only going to be for advanced learners coming into a fellowship, and they will be the only ones that'll have the opportunity to complete that questionnaire to see, you know, what skill level they have, and then complete the module. And we will, you know, share the names of the people who are qualified to be in that with you as the information is confirmed. Anyone who's doing IS training with us will receive Nextdyne cards so that they can purchase lunch. We were doing delivered luncheons, but it became just too difficult to deal with food allergies and preferences and things. And so giving them a Nextdyne card allows them to stretch their legs, go over to the cafeteria, purchase what they would like. And it worked out really well last year. So we're going to continue with that. There's a few programs who do orientation with the VA if they are going to be practicing over there. So that date is set. It's always the last Friday in June. And then when Cassie and I worked out the schedule, she was able to secure June 20th for a medicine procedure training day. So having said all of this, we're really close to it being finalized. We have a meeting on Friday with IS, and we're hoping that we can make it final and share all of the information with you and give you a head start this year on trying to work your orientation schedules out. Does anyone have any questions?
Melissa, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
So if the fellows are starting August 1st, what if
Yep.
they can't be here for their orientations?
So anyone who starts off cycle, Susan, we
Is it,
work-
is it off cycle now, August 1st?
Yes, you're still, yeah, you're still off cycle because this is focused on everyone that's starting July 1.
Okay,
So any programs that start after that, we consider off cycle for us. So we will have a different process for you guys. You'll have to book their EPIC training, and we record the orientation session. So you'll get a link to that. You'll pick up the cell phone and from IS here at the university campus, and they will help, you know, do all the setup and fingerprinting and all of that stuff that they would normally do in the IS portion of training.
There's a whole process that's involved for people that have off-cycle people, and that's August starts, late July starts, you know, anything that's not a July 1 start is considered off-cycle. And there's a whole process. A lot of it has to change this year because you have to request Epic training through Workday, and we have not been granted the information on how to do that yet. But at the fingers crossed, at the next coordinator meeting, we'll have those answers. We've been pushing, trying to get those answers, because I know for off-cycle folks, there's other tasks that you guys have to do that, you know, won't fall in the schedule that we already have together. So we will send out a full list of all the things people that have off-cycle starts need to do and how to do it. We will definitely provide that for you, so you don't have to worry about it right now. We will get you that information once we have it.
Yeah. Melissa, I have a question. Neuroradiology has a fellow who is on GI bill. Does that means VA orientation is on June 28th for him also?
No, nope.
No?
Nope, that's something that's for the residents who and the fellows who actually go and practice at the VA.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think this year, you know, we've played around with that big giant master schedule that's in Excel that's sort of color coded. And I think we're going to do a modification of that. We will still use the color coded Excel version, but I think we'll continue with what Cassie implemented last year, which was a sort of a breakdown in like on another sheet that told you exactly which programs on which days and what was happening. So it was a little bit easier for people to follow that, I think, but it is nice to have sort of the visual in front of you. So right now we have one for IS training and one for the certification courses, but I think there'll be another tab that will sort of break it down so that you can just read it.
Right. I'm not positive. If there are any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll just keep going through with the agenda. Unless, Melissa, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that was it. I'm just reading, there's a comment in the chat from Haley. Okay, no, I'm all set.
All right. Cassie Wammenster just put in the chat as well, reminder to go to MedHub poll and choose a date for the inaugural forum. But I'll continue on with the agenda. The next item I had, I just wanted to touch base really briefly on the ACGME site visits and self-studies. ACGME just nonchalantly put this in their newsletter. They're like, hey, we're not pretty much linking the self-study with site visits anymore, and we're not doing the 10-year like big self-study and site visit that are joined and are one item. So what is happening is ACGME will now be reaching out to 1 to 2% of programs, and they will be doing a smaller site visit that is not linked to the self-study. So the self-study will still be a thing. They'll still let you know when you have to do it. It just will not be linked to site visits. We do have a couple of programs that have already received notification that they're having a site visit. And we're hopeful that we'll learn from these programs because it's the first time they're doing it this way. So we don't have a lot of information quite yet, but we did want to give you that heads up that the 10-year site visits, if you were waiting on them, like I know I personally, PEDS was due in 2020, and with COVID and everything, it didn't happen. It got pushed back. So we're, we would be looking pretty much every like 3 to 6 months on the ACGME web ads to see what it would say on the right-hand side, and it just didn't say much of anything, but now we understand why. They're getting rid of the 10-year site visits. So it was just more of an FYI that they're going to be doing things a little differently, and we're hoping to learn from the programs that are going through it first. Any questions on that, or does anybody want to chime in with anything? All right. There is Shirley put in the chat that surgery fellowships are now starting on August 1st. I do feel like they're moving that way. Shirley, you have your hand raised. Did you want to unmute yourself and chime in?
Yeah, so I just had a quick question. So I know like the signaling, we started with OB and Southern Digital Program are doing it. So I know that all the surgical fellowship are now starting on August 1st. So who knows, maybe in a year or two, we will have more fellowships starting on August 1st. Will we always consider as an off-cycle thing for us, or we will consider?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think we'll have to determine that, you know, once we see how many fellowships are actually moving in that direction, whether or not it will adjust how we offer training. Are you saying like, would we offer a whole other repeated process for all the 8-1 people? Same as we do for the July 1st?
Well, yeah, for now, it's just a couple of people doing it. It makes sense that
Right.
we take care of it ourselves in the program. But so I don't know how many fellows you have total for GME, like if it is a bigger group. So maybe it will make sense to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still gonna be a small group, but
So currently only, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's like 7 actual fellows that start in August, because it's the ortho fellows, now both of the OB fellowships, colon and rectal. That's it.
Yeah.
And they all
sometimes
would
preventive
do the
medicine, but
epic.
they change. Sometimes preventive medicine.
Yeah, internal, some, I mean, there could be like some people that start off cycle just because they have to start off cycle. I know like a lot of those surgery programs are moving to that, you know, their on cycle date will be that 8-1 start. But for us to try to set up a whole separate orientation day for just like 10 people would be a little difficult for us. But it is something that we have kicked around in the GME office that, you know, this is something we got to think about. It could be easier just for the programs because you have like 1, 2 fellows. It might just be easier for you guys to organize your own, you know, so that way you can book Epic on the day that you want to do Epic. You can, you know, have them sit and watch the recordings and things like that. I mean, if they are starting off cycle and they can make the fellowship orientation Zoom day, awesome. They can definitely join in on that. It's the big piece for you guys is really the Epic and IS orientation.
And yes, and this is, and even if we took care of it, I don't mean to interrupt you. So it will be good for maybe GME to maybe send an email to, especially the IT people. Sometimes when we try to connect with them individually, a lot of them, they acting like we don't know what you're talking about. But when you come as a group, like it's easier. I had to request IS training and account for 3 people that, well, 2 of them. You have no idea how difficult it is. Every time you talk to someone, it tells you something different. So, but for some reason.
I do know how difficult it is because I have to do it for 250 on new incoming.
Oh, but do
So
they tell like you don't know what you're talking about? Every time you talk to somebody else, it tells you, okay, you go there, you do.
That's why we're trying to streamline it this year because of Workday, things are going to be vastly different with the onboarding. So that's why I have brought this up to our orientation onboarding project manager, letting her know, like, you know, there are a set of people that need to onboard separately from this big one, and we need clear, proper instructions on how to process that. So we are aware of that, and we're trying our best to figure that out. But like I said, that Workday piece is really slowing us up. Our hands are completely tied until somebody from Workday lets us know how this all works. But we are, like I said, we are aware of it, and we're going to try to put together the best set of instructions that we can for you guys. Because for us to plan a whole onboarding for, you know, 220 people, then plus, you know, just a separate one for like 7, it makes it really, really difficult. So we're doing the best that we can. We're trying to share the burden with you, and we're going to get you the best instructions that we can.
Thank you in advance.
I don't know if this is a transition into Workday.
I mean, yeah, the only thing I had next were just the reminders. We can transition into Workday. I don't see Brian on unless he's a phone number or something, but I don't even see, there was one phone number earlier and I don't see it anymore. So Melissa?
Yeah, I
Is-
mean, I followed up with Brian Huggins is the person that we have been connected with. He's the senior VP of finance and operations, something like that. I had a meeting with him last week to kind of summarize some of the challenges that GME is having. I don't think that they planned for this sort of challenge of having this whole other group of people that they didn't account for. And so the only positive that came out of that conversation, because he's now having to kind of sort through everything that he's learning to figure out how to deal with these issues. The only good thing that came out of it was the offer that he might be able to assist with getting some of the reimbursements that have been sitting for all of you, since before December, trying to get those processed outside of you having access to Workday and being able to do it. So I checked it right before this meeting and there's a lot of names on that sheet. So I don't know what's going to come of it when I share the information with him. It may be a higher volume than what he anticipated when he made the offer. But my hope is that the ones that are coming up to 120 days, that those are the ones that we can get processed quickly so that the residents aren't going to have to be taxed. There are some on that sheet that look like they may have been, that they've already been past the 120 days. If anyone has some that are at 125 days, 126 days, there is no, we cannot process them through the clinical side. They have to go through the school. So those won't be part of this expedited process. So I just want to make sure I'm clear about that. If you have ones that are already hit past the 120, you'll have to work with someone in your department who processes PeopleSoft reimbursements, and you're going to have to reimburse the trainee that way, and it will be taxed and it will go through their payroll check.
Melissa, is it, even if it is a part of the book fund, in our radiology, we do book fund through clinical and the other reimbursement through school. So even if it is a book fund money, it will be reimbursed to the school?
If it's over 120 days, because the clinical side won't process it.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so if you have them and they're over that, you'll have to do it through the PeopleSoft system.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I have a question that just came up a little earlier. If you have school funds, you can still process how you regularly do. This only applies to those who the educational funds are deposited into a clinical cost center. Is that fair to say?
Yes, so everybody's book fund or everybody's ed allowance gets transferred from my interns and residents budget, my clinical budget, into individual medical group accounts. So anytime you're utilizing that money or a trainee is utilizing that money, it has to go through the clinical side because you're utilizing clinical funds that are in a cost center. If you have an expense that doesn't fall under the ed allowance, it's being paid for through the department through some other means, and it's through the school, yes, you would be able to just process it as normal. And if they're over the 120 days, they have to go through the school as well. The clinical side won't do it.
And this is probably a silly question. Do you know if any of those cost centers, once they get the funds from GME, they then deposit it into into a medical school one, just to kind of skip that step? Is there like an internal transfer that can happen?
I was told by Chris Bunn that their ed funds have to stay in a medical group account. We can't even collect a school speed type when we're requesting those unless it's a medical school fund, an MSF account. So if you had one of those, you could probably have an exception granted, but for the most part, it's 100% of the departments are using a medical group cost center.
Okay, I just didn't know if like a school employee had it then transferred over, you know, like a school coordinator and their funds were.
You can do, I guess, but the school charges a 13 or 18% handling charges, and that is like a way lot of money.
Yeah.
So that is one of the reasons why we are not doing it.
Okay, thank you, Bina. That's useful information.
Welcome.
So, and I did meet with Dr. Bache, who's the CMO today, and he asked me how things were progressing with Workday. He has a meeting with Brian Huggins tomorrow, I think, to kind of go through the status of things. So, you know, I pretty much told him it's not good and nobody knows what to do. I don't know how to advise you. And my fear is that if I start to try and tell you, well, try to do this, and we keep getting piecemeal information from other people who are sort of in it, try this, do this, it may end up being that we're giving you the wrong information. And I feel like that's worse than just saying, unfortunately, we have to wait until we get the information we need. The ed allowance is a little bit different because apparently it has to be set up for each program as a, I don't know if each department's ed allowance is a project or each individual resident is set up as a project. But that's all work that they're going to have to do. And my other issue when trying to explain to Brian what the challenges were is I don't know how each individual department works. I don't know if the coordinator is going to be the one that's uploading the expense reports. I don't know if there's someone else in the program who is clinical who's already doing it for you. Like, there's a lot of different programs, and I don't have the knowledge of all the inner workings of each of them. He asked me for a list of all of the coordinators, so I did give him a list of all of the programs and the coordinators, hoping that he could just get people access, and then if you needed it, great. If you didn't need it, you know, but to be safe, I thought it was best to just try and get everybody access in the event that it was needed. Because I think you can just have view access if you aren't going to be the actual person uploading and, you know, doing the work. Some programs, like I know Monique, I think there was another program that I talked to the other day, their residents are uploading their own expense reports. So it's all going to be based on how you guys want to operate. The basics is just getting the access piece figured out and getting everybody to be able to log into the system and do the training and kind of have a sense of how this is supposed to work. But then how you guys decide who does what in your program, that's going to be probably different across the board.
If we are having the residents upload themselves, to which I would totally vote for that, so they can submit their own reimbursement. How does the system know like how much money they have left in their, you know, IE book fund, CME or whatnot? So it would sort of bounce back if they have reached that.
Yeah, I don't know if it bounces back, but according to Brian, it's sort of set up to be like a checking account. You know, you're going to see a starting balance, you're going to see submitted an expense for this amount, expense for this amount. This is your current balance. And so they can go in and they'll be able to see like, oh, I still have $700. Great. And then they can submit another expense report. So I don't know what happens, you know, if they had $300 and they're trying to expend something for 400, I don't know if it kicks it back and says, you know, you only have $300, or if it takes it and just pays the 300 and that's it. I'm not sure of all of that, but that's why it's important to set them up as projects, because that's sort of the functionality of the system. And I guess that's the benefit of the system, is that it will sort of walk you through where things are in the process and what the balances are for the things that you're managing. And so for us, the ed allowance is the biggest chunk of money.
And they probably would get their reimbursement faster if they're doing it themselves, right?
I'm told that once it's submitted, like once it's gone through the approval process, it's paid immediately. And so there is allegedly, you know, a direct deposit option. I kind of went over that with Brian because I said, they're not your employees. Are you still going to be able to offer that? And he was unsure. So right now, I believe they'll still get checks. I think if he's able to figure out a way for that to work and the resident or fellow wants to add their banking information so that they're reimbursements can go directly into their bank account. That may be a potential option. I wouldn't mention that to them at this point. But I am hearing that things are being paid much quicker than the 2 to 3 week waiting period that sometimes you were waiting for a reimbursement check.
I said if there's any way that we can gear towards them uploading it themselves, I would totally vote for that.
And Melissa, maybe I don't know if you know the answer. Like, what happens if department is substituting, giving additional education funds?
Yeah, I don't know, because I was on the call with another department administrator who actually talked about that, and I think he doesn't know. Doesn't know how that's gonna work, because we haven't gotten over like the 3 other hurdles to get us to figure out that one.
Yeah,
challenge,
because we
so.
offer additional funds, but only we don't roll over the additional funds.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna, I don't know who builds it. I don't know if it's the program themselves. Monique, I don't know if I know you had talked to me early on about setting up projects, so I don't know if it's the individual programs that are gonna set up projects.
So
Okay.
from my from my understanding, they wanted one, like maybe GME, to just give them a list of all of the trainees and their departments, and then individual departments can then set up their, and I'm probably using the wrong name for this, but like the signatories, like once they submit it, who signs it next, and then who's the final signature, and when is it fully approved, that kind of information.
I did that. I did that months ago. I did that in like November. I sent that list to them, who all of our trainees, coordinators, department admin.
Yeah, but like in pediatrics, it doesn't go to either one of us. So every department does it differently, is what I'm saying. Like we have a finance person that handles all of that. So that's why they want it to go to individual departments once the trainees are in there. The project is pretty much, it has to be the individual person. So say they get $3,000, $1,000 per year, and it only rolls over once. You set up those rules and those parameters. And it is my understanding that the departments will be able to tweak like an additional 500, but I don't know the specifics of, like Bina said, that additional fund can't roll over. So that's where it gets really, really tricky, but this is all like secondhand knowledge. So I feel like even maybe we should wait until like we get direct from Workday, because everybody is giving us like, well, I got this, and it's like, all right, none of it makes any sense to anybody. I think we all need to just kind of sit tight until Workday actually gives us some instruction here. Because I was reached out to by Workday people back in like November asking for a list of all the people, contacts, email, like everything. So, and I sent that, but that was the last that GME ever heard. And we've reached out a million times, and we do need access. I don't even know. I requested access 2 weeks ago. I still haven't gotten access. So I know it's super frustrating. Believe me, I'm just as frustrated. I made like 10 different phone calls today just trying to figure out who can help me. And so I'll just put a pause on everything. We will get you that information as soon as we can. At this point, there's literally nothing we can do because they're not getting that. Yeah, I agree. I think the confusing piece is that it to their credit, they tried to make it where you can customize it, but it's so customizable that every specialty and department is doing it a bit different. So I think it makes sense for GME to have their own process, and we all just kind of do it that way. Because I agree with you, Cassie. Every person I speak to says, oh yeah, it worked for me. This is how I did it. And it's completely different from person A to person B and person C. So I get that they wanted it to be customizable and you can make it yours, but that has caused a lot of confusion. And the other thing I've heard is job aids are being created for individual. So like individual people are creating job aids because that works for them, but it may not necessarily work for the next person because that next person's process could be entirely different.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, the other piece that's going to need to be worked out too, and I know this has happened with faculty that, receive a practice allowance, so similar to the book allowance, the approval process, who's in the system as the default approver. So in some cases, it's the department chair. The department chair is not going to approve all of these. So then there's going to be delegation that's set up and that's all going to be customized based on your individual department and how you all work. I mean, that's not something that we're going to be able to speak to, but we're going to deal with that in our own office. And, we're trying to figure out, making sure that we can approve things if we're not clinical employees, but school employees, because we're going to have all school employees are going to have a designation of contingent worker. So I had asked Brian, can a contingent worker approve the use of medical center funds? And he said, well, yeah, you should be able to. Okay, so we just, that's the stuff that we're going to even deal with in our office, because we have to pay invoices through funds from the clinical budget. So lots of things to be worked out. I'm guessing that it's going to be at least another couple weeks, but I will share the list of reimbursements that are outstanding so far with him and see if I can work with him on a process to get at least a chunk of them processed and paid out. And then hopefully by the time, we have, well, in the next couple of weeks, if more of us have access, some of those will be able to be done as practice runs for us, but we'll see how many that he's willing to get through for us. Because we don't want them sitting, and he was pretty honest about that. He wants to keep everything moving. So I'll be in contact with folks as he lets me know which ones are going to move forward.
All right, if there are any additional workday questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Safe to say, the update is we're working on an update and we'll go from there.
Sounds about right.
As frustrating as that sounds. So I'm looking at my notes here and I just have a couple of quick reminders. I'm going to put a plug in again, check on MedHub and fill out that poll for the coordinator forum. Baby photos, if you haven't sent those to Cassie Wamister, please send your baby photos in. We love seeing them. They're so stinking cute. The next thing I have is just keep in mind that pretty soon we're going to have to register for SOAP. So when the SOAP registration opens up, if you haven't registered, register for SOAP. And that is for our new coordinators. That is, if you don't fill when match day comes up, you have to go through a SOAP process that allows you to fill those spaces for trainees that did not match with your program. And then this one is, a lot of us have already scheduled our rank meetings or already done with rank, but if you have not, make sure you schedule the rank meeting. I see in the chat that only PD can update SOAP. I don't know if that's true for all specialties, or because I register us for SOAP all the time, and then I wonder if maybe the PD gets a notification to do that, but I don't know. I feel like I do it every year. But
no, I think PD has to do it.
Okay, well, I guess remind your PD to do it, and then
Yes, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Kathy Wamister put in the chat, quota change deadline is January 31st. If you have any quota changes, that means if, say, originally you were scheduled to match 8 applicants and now you want to bump it down to 7 for whatever reason, you have to do that in ERIS, in the R3 system by January 31st. And then I mentioned rank meetings. And the last thing is, if you have a fellowship that is required to have a scholarly oversight committee meetings, those are biannually. So if you haven't done yours yet for this year, just get them scheduled. And if you don't have a fellowship that requires that, then don't worry about it. And we are a little bit over, but any questions or anything else that you guys want to chime in about?
I was just going to talk about reappointment.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't realize I was told we would not, but go ahead.
No, because next meeting I wanted to talk about orientation. So reappointment, I'd say about 95% of all reappointment agreements have been delivered between the last couple of days. Apologize, I wanted to get them out last week, but I got COVID. So push those all out. I sent an email to every single coordinator with a complete list. If anyone was highlighted in red on your list, that means they did not receive a contract for the upcoming academic year for a whole host of variety of reasons. I have a few more step 3 people out there. We got some people on disciplinary or corrective actions, or, you know, there's just some questions back and forth. I have either reached out to the program or the director or the coordinator directly about this. So as soon as those go out, I will let you know. Please make sure that you're reminding your program director to check their MedHub a couple times a week to make sure that they're signing off the contracts. Program directors can't sign the contract until the resident or the fellow signs the contract. If residents or fellows have any questions about their contracts, please feel free to reach out to me if they have questions about the pay, the start date, the functional versus paid level, all that fun stuff. Yeah, so that's all set. I think we're in good shape on that. And now that I have the reappointment list together, I have our terms and COP list and everything. So I will be working on graduate certificate drafts, which will get sent out probably in the next month or so. As you get your chiefs, I know not everybody has chosen chiefs yet, and that's fine. But as you are choosing your chiefs, please let me know, let me and Megan know, so we can update our list and we can make sure that if anyone needs lab coats or stuff for the chiefs, that we do that and we update MedHub accordingly. I feel like there's one other thing. Crap, COVID brain's taken over.
Did you
But
wanna
yeah,
talk
and
about
now
the
that
COVID booster?
I'm sorry?
Did you want to talk about the COVID booster, or was one other thing about reappointment?
The COVID booster thing, listen, with the COVID booster, please don't send me COVID stuff. Please, it's just like the flu shot. I can't do anything with it. People keep sending me stuff and I just keep telling them, you need to send it to the mailbox. Please stop sending me things. When it comes to the COVID booster stuff, if they can't go get their COVID booster by Friday, that's fine. Have them submit the declination form. What the clinical system is looking for, the CDC is requiring all hospitals to report their COVID booster status, basically. So it was a very short period of time. So if your training got their COVID booster anytime last fall, like after, I think it was 9/15 or something like that, they have to submit that proof to that employee COVID booster mailbox address. Or, if they don't have the time, don't want to do it, whatever, submit the declination form. The declination form, it's not a matter of whether it's going to be accepted or not. It's just checking a box. I know it's frustrating. It's stupid, whatever. I get it. It has to get done. Please do this. We are so slammed in the GME office right now. Please don't make me have to process paid leave of absences on top of it all. Please don't make me have to do this. Please follow up with your folks. Tell them to send it to that mailbox. Residents are sending it to me and I have to take the time, find the email box, return it, email it back to them, say, no, you need to send, please tell them to send it to that mailbox. Cassie's got her hand raised.
What exactly is the point of sending the declination form or the booster if it is not mandatory? I'm just slightly confused, and so were the residents.
I just explained the CDC has told all clinical systems across the country they need this data. So the clinical system is asking us to collect that data for them. They want to know who has the booster, who hasn't gotten the booster, who's declined the booster. It's the shot itself is not mandatory, but providing either proof or the declination form is mandatory. I know, seems silly, but it has to get done. So please tell your people this has got to get done. And if they don't have the time, they don't want to do it, it's not, just submit the declination form. It's okay. It's not like they're going to be looked at weird or they're going to get pulled from service because they declined the code. No, it's just literally checking a box. That's it. Believe me, it's just as frustrating on my end to manage, 675 people to make sure that they get their information in. So please, please, please follow up with your folks.
When's the deadline, Cassie? Did you say?
This Friday, the 26th. So I sent out a tracking sheet this morning. What's today? Today's Tuesday, so I'll get another one Thursday. Like I said, if they don't have it done, just fill out the form for them, have them sign it, and then email it to that employee COVID booster mailbox.
All right. I mean, that's all I have. I don't know if you had anything else, Cassie, or if you remembered that additional item you had in mind when I chimed in on the COVID booster.
Yeah, Deb, did you want to talk about renewals or anything? Are you good?
I'm good, actually. My goal is still the same. Maybe by the end of this week, you'll get emails from me letting you know to inform your trainees to renew their license. I'm currently working off of Cassie's spreadsheets to create my own licensing spreadsheets. There's 675 trainees. I need to be clear on what they're doing. I'm just about done with that. And you just keep an eye out for emails from me. So my goal is to have all renewal notices or get my emails to you to let the trainees know to renew at least by next Thursday, which is the 1st. Then they'll have a whole month to get it done. The due date's March 1st. Hopefully we'll get them all done before onboarding starts. So that's the goal we're shooting for. And that's it.
All right. If you guys have anything else, don't hesitate to send us an email. I know we went a little bit over. Thank you guys so much, and hopefully there'll be more information to come. So thank you guys. Have a good evening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks.